Roz, my girl, you're here with me again. Back for WNBA Mondays. I'm very excited to have you with me today.
I'm so excited to be here too. Also, your hair is looking great. Loving the new style.
Thank you so much. You know, as Black women, we love to.
I have my own little new thing going too.
Yes, and I love it.
Thank you.
We're so funny about our crowns, but
absolutely,
it means a lot to us, just like I know it means a lot to the women of the WNBA. So, Roz, I need to know what is going on. The Aces, who are only 1 year removed from winning a championship, back-to-back championship, seem to be struggling a lot this year. So the Valkyries took on the Aces over the weekend, and it was kind of a lot of headlines.
Yeah.
Heading into it because Natalie was going up against the former team where she was an assistant under Becky Hammond's staff. Also Kate Martin going against her old team. Tip didn't get to play, but a number of former Aces players on the Valkyries. And the Valkyries put it on the Aces. Put it on them. Smack them, blowout. Just not the game that I was expecting to see.
Yeah, I think for the Aces, what you highlighted is there's a lot of loss that this team has had over the last season or a couple now. And when you have loss, there's also like a mourning period of that. And in some ways, maybe the Aces are in mourning right now as they figure out exactly who they are. Of course, you still have Asia Wilson, right? That's the headline. Yes. But you lost key pieces. Like Tiff Hayes, and having somebody who can come off the bench and give you big energy and production. Obviously, Kelsey Plum is a really special talent in the WNBA and throughout the world as a basketball player. Someone who can produce, someone who understood her role on the team, someone who was a playmaker. Also, you lost two high-level elite assistant coaches who are now head coaches in the WNBA. That strategic planning and familiarity, that goes a long way. And you may be seeing some discomfort with that as they've lost Tyler Marsh and obviously Natalie Nakase. So I'll start there just by saying, there's a lot of loss, and I feel like it's hard to overcome that sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And, I don't want to take away from what the Valkyries did because it was an impressive win. And, after the game, Natalie Nakase was telling the team, this is who we are, And she's correct. I mean, their defense has really been great all season. And from earlier in the year when they played the Liberty, the first game was a blowout. But honestly, after that first half, the Valkyries settled in and they played the Liberty much better in the second half. That was in their first matchup. In the second game, it was a close game. It came down to the wire. Now, that game was missing Jonquel Jones. And ironically, the Liberty just played a game again, and they're missing, Jonquel Jones went down. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But when it comes to the Valkyries, this is not a fluke. I mean, maybe we're all shocked at the way they beat the Aces, but they've been able to hang with a lot of teams this year.
Not at all. And you said, Natalie Nakase said, we know who we are. What impresses me most about the Valkyries is already they seem to have a very clear understanding of their identity, at least who they want to be, and at max, who they are already. They have a culture already. They are tough. They are selfless. They are going to work on defense. They want to play fast off of their rebounds, off of your mistakes. So that's the identity that they have. And they have a nice little mix here. I think that they've outplayed their expectations. They've got some nice young players who they'll miss some time with Eurobasket, but they've got nice young players like Janelle Salon, Carla Late. But right now it's about the vets for the Valkyries.
Kayla Thornton and
it is about the vets. Kayla Thornton has a career high in points and rebounds. You got Veronica Burton. I actually have her as a candidate for most improved player.
Very possible. And she had, that was her first double-double and also a career high in assists for her.
I'm going to take it even further than that. I think she makes the team go in many ways. Okay. Veronica Burton is putting so much pressure off the bounce towards the rim, and she's constantly probing. Either she's getting to the rim or she's going to find somebody off the pass, and then this team is a team that'll make the extra pass. But what I see for Burton is she's just making the most of the extra opportunity. And that's part of why coming to a new franchise, an expansion team, it can be a daunting task, but in this way, that's a great benefit. There are players here who have been career role players that may not have been protected by their teams in the expansion draft and things like that, that are now having the chance to bust out with the extra opportunity. So just tripling her points per game from last season, Veronica Burton. We're talking from 3 to 12, about 13 points per game, more than doubling her assists from 2 to 5, from 1 rebound, 1.5 to like 4.5. These are huge jumps.
Yeah.
And so she's really impacting the game. I'm impressed by the rebounding out of the guard position. One more vet, I lied, 2 more vets I'm gonna shout out. Xanda Lassini, we already knew she could shoot the 3. Spacing is very key for a sizable wing. And my girl Mo Billings is a delight off the bench. Coming off the bench is not a negative thing. Like, it is such a luxury for a coach to know exactly what they're going to get off the bench. And I think that Mo has figured out what she's bringing. It's an offensive and defensive surge of energy, of athleticism. She had a huge block against A'ja Wilson and a double-double. She had 14 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. So shout out to the vets of this Valkyrie team. And also I want to shout out their crowd, because that arena pulls up and sells out.
4th home game, 4th sellout, over 18,000 plus fans in attendance. So they have a serious home court advantage that we need to probably be talking about a lot more, on top of the great play and the great defense we've seen so far. Also, just want to shout out Kate Martin, who also, not a vet, but had a really good game as well against her former team. So
well, I think it's really important. Like you said, we gave our flowers to the Valkyries, who are doing dope things, but we have to pay some attention. There are some serious issues with the Aces.
Absolutely. And I want to know, watching that game, what did you see? What is frustrating the Aces so much, and why have they been so inconsistent to start the season?
Becky Hammon said it best, and she aired her team out in the press conference. She said it is an effort issue. This is what concerns me. She said it's a heart issue that's becoming a head issue. Now, you don't want to be in players' heads, because that's when things get, tough to overcome and take a lot of work, not only on the court, but off of it. And she said, they out-toughed us. They thugged us out. And that's the truth. So that's a horrible place to be when it's an effort issue. She called her team soft. What I saw, where is softness? The Aces had poor transition defense. In that first half, especially that second quarter where they got out, let them score 34 points or so, man, everybody was out there shooting threes, assists. It was easy to come by. So defense, they're not working hard. They were out-hustled. They were out-rebounded. Everything is hard for the Aces right now. Like, even when they did kind of get some scoring going in the second half, these are tough shots. One-on-one, Chelsea Gray dribbling the ball, all these things. The defense is right there on her. Credit the Valkyries' defense that was tough and really focused on keeping players in front. And then A'ja Wilson is seeing 2 to 3 players, 3-4 players on defense. It's nothing but crowds. And why should anybody not crowd A'ja Wilson if Kia Stokes will not take a shot?
Right.
And then you've got Jackie and Juwell, who in this game didn't shoot well. So it's not helpful for the spacing around A'ja. And if teams just have common sense, this is a defensive plan that can work. And coming off the bench, you got a rookie who's kind of doing the most for them. Nye's got 2 back-to-back double-doubles. So I am concerned.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you're a player, well, you have been a player. So if you're a player on the Aces and Becky Hammon has these post-game remarks, how do you respond to hearing your coach saying that?
Becky Hammon has learned through the School of Pop. She's speaking to the players through the press conference. She's putting public pressure on them. And I'd like to believe that as a team, you respond and care, you're challenged by it. But my concern is I don't necessarily know how connected this team feels right now. And so I think there's a lot of just toughening up, and I think it has to start defensively for this team. Remember, I started this off and I said there's a lot of loss they had.
Yeah.
Alicia Clark is another player that was once on that roster. They lost people who Sydney Colson. These are people also that help the locker room through drama over the course of seasons. And I think this team, this Aces team has felt a lot of drama on and off the court. People are wondering about donations or money coming in.
Right.
There's legal battles. There's this and that. And I think one thing I've heard Steve Kerr when I was with the Warriors and I've heard this described about dynasties, is that over time there's just a natural erosion that comes with it.
Do you consider the Aces a dynasty already?
The windows are small. They won what, two or three?
They won 2 and two back to back, but Usually most people want 3, right?
You want 3, but I say these windows are small. And most recently, I'm trying to think of who are recent dynasties that could even be in that conversation.
I mean, was probably the Lynx. I mean, it wasn't back to back.
Oh, the Lynx are definitely a dynasty.
Yes.
So since then, was there anyone?
I don't think so.
Because the Lynx were doing it every other year for a while.
Right.
I don't know. The window seems like it could be closing quick on them. You know, last year for Chelsea Gray too, it was about health. I've personally been a little bit surprised, given how amazing and dominant she was in Unrivaled, how this season has started for her.
Yeah.
But I wonder again if that's part of the synergy and the connectedness I brought up. This team figuring out, and I still want to give time for Juwell Loyd to figure things out.
Yeah, you brought up Juwell, and I want to ask you about her because, I mean, she has the nickname Gold Mamba for a reason, right? Like, she can score, you know, and in bunches, and that's what we're used to seeing from Juwell. And ironically, this year, she's actually shooting pretty well from 3, but from 2, like, it's just season lows for her. And when you look at over the years, you know, how she's been, I mean, this is going back to 2022 when she was last with Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird on the Storm. And then you just look each year and, I mean, 17.2 on 2s. I mean, I just feel like that's not going to stay for the whole season. But what do you think potentially could be affecting Juwell's shot right now? We've heard her talk a lot about finding the joy in playing again. She's alluded to like it being a difficult year last year in Seattle. She didn't really have like a, you know, like the way that Chelsea Gray had a big season in Unrivaled. We didn't see that from Juwell there. So what do you think, if anything, might be impacting her still?
My thoughts on Juwell Loyd are she has everything she needs. You know, we've seen her certainly in spurts show just how dynamic of a scorer she can be. But over the last 3 years, I mean, Juwell Loyd hasn't been an efficient scorer in years. She's been high volume and low efficiency. And you brought up the graphic, if you could bring it up again. In 2025, I mean, the 29% shooting. So last season was 36% shooting. 2023, 37% shooting. And she led the league in points. I remember there was a whole discussion, like, how dare you guys put her second team if you know, she led the league in points, but the efficiency was low, and the team had just lost Brianna Stewart, Sue Bird, and they were losing. They were like bottom of the league. So it was hard to really evaluate the value or the depth, the substance within the scoring for her. So I think for Juwell, she has what it takes, and I also think grace and time to figure out where her shots come from within with this unit around Asia and how she manufactures them. That's a natural part of it. But I also think that this starts as a mental issue with her, and as you've said, she's raised her hand and said, I have to work at the mental game. She's had to work at refinding her joy, her confidence. I spoke to her at Unrivaled in Miami. She was working with Coach Phil Handy on just like refinding the Mamba. That's exactly what they were working on. I spoke with Phil Handy. He's like, we just working on, you know, having her find the Mamba in the game and then keep it throughout. So like not losing it, not coming out and blasting you for 14 points in a quarter and then we don't hear from you again. And so these are just things that I think come with also personal comfort, and obviously like it's been a rough couple years here. I think she needs closure from Seattle. It's hard to move on with your new team when you've got a new filed report, you know, on Seattle now and the behavior coming out of that. So it's complicated, but I'm hopeful that with time and just, you know, work at it, we see more from Juwell.
Yeah, I really hope so, because she can be such a critical piece for the Aces if she can refine that again. In the meantime, I don't really know what the answer is for the Aces. You also talked about Chelsea earlier taking a lot of hard shots, and I feel like that's a theme I've been seeing from her throughout this season.
But Chelsea took those shots when she was the best guard in the league. None of these shots are different. They're just not going in now.
Right, but then we need something to change, because I mean, just a few weeks ago, Asia was leading the team in assists, right? And there was like a whole big deal about that, because it's just like, Chelsea's so critical to what they do. So you need her to make those shots, but you also need her to get the offense going. Jackie Young having a tough shooting night, okay.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes, but Becky seemed to think the offense, because their shots weren't going in, was affecting how they played on defense. So
interesting. I think they need to just make the game easier for one another. I'd love to see more assists. I'd love to see more fast break opportunities. They've got to get more stops. They got to continue to compete on the glass and take care of the ball and move it. You know, and I think the rest will come. Like, good energy comes off of, like, let's just play hard and focus on putting together consecutive stops. And then all of a sudden you get some good energy movement. Now everybody's slapping five and dapping each other up. Oh, let's get an extra swing on the ball. And everyone's feeling involved.
All right, well, there you heard it. We'll see. Aces, we don't know what's going on with you, but I trust in them to figure it out. Roz, thank you so much for a great conversation, as always.
As always, great to be here.